Boom, here we go again. Welcome to TheoLIVE, a live show about theology, what's going on in Christian culture, and trying to understand the theology at play in some of these bigger stories. My name is Dean, and this is the second time that we've tried to do this today, that I've tried. What is up with YouTubers? I might have said this before, but YouTubers, we have this thing where we want to do something bigger than just us. And so there's like this thing that happens. I know I do it. I'm just going to speak for myself, but like I've seen some other people do it too, where we talk about like we do this on the show, or like we do these kinds of videos, and it's like, it's just you. It's just me. It's just me, guys. And sometimes I make some mistakes. And I made some big ones earlier today. I tried to do live show. I've been trying to do it on Monday afternoons. That's the idea of when I've thought, all right, this is the best time to do this show, because I'm already home on Mondays. Baby sleeps, and so might as well, kill two birds, one stone, not, get something done while he's napping, while I'm on daddy duty, and do the show. Well, unfortunately, that didn't work out today. The baby woke up after 45 minutes, and I realized can't rely on that anymore. It's sad. He's getting big, but it's time to go to the evenings. So that's what we're going to do from now on. It will be Monday nights where we'll talk about theology together. If you're hopping into this stream, do me a favor and like the video. Just do it. It's helpful. I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun, and it'll make you feel good. Maybe 10% better about yourself if you click the like button. Science says that. I'm pretty sure. I read a Facebook post and it said that. Just kidding. I'm not on Facebook anymore. Also today with the live stream, just letting you know all the dirty laundry. I tried to do this, and not only was I cut short by baby's nap time, I'm learning stuff. Okay. This isn't the most professional show. It might look a lot better if you could see how I've got things, maneuvered around here. I'll just say it's not like the best looking show, but I will say it looks a lot better on screen than it does here. I've made stuff. I've thrown stuff together. This isn't the most professional show is what I'm trying to say. And today I had my mic muted when I tried to do this the first time for a third of the video. David, I'm forgetting his last name. He was in here watching. So if you're going to be watching this, David, thank you so much for saying there was no sound. I really appreciate that. It's too bad that I didn't see it until 10 minutes later, but I really appreciate it. So today we're going to try to hopefully have, a decent show where at least you could hear me. Who knows whether it's good or not, but you'll at least be able to see and hear me. That is my goal tonight. Another goal that I have is to talk about these things right here. We've got some talking points that I want us to look at tonight. So we're going to cover a few of these things, because the last two that I've done of these, this is the third episode of TheoLIVE. I'm still figuring out exactly what the format of this show is going to be. I've pretty much figured out that it will be about 5 minutes of me rambling, and then I'll actually get into talking about something, mostly because I'm hoping that people will show up, and so we can chat about these things together. But I think it's good, even if there isn't anyone watching this. There are a few people, but if we're not hopping into the chat, we can at least have the replays, and as well as me get another rep in and figure out how to do this technology, because muting people's microphones, that's not good. But today we're going to be shifting a little bit, because the last couple episodes we've basically been talking about one big subject. I did an episode on Mars Hill, and I'll probably bring that back. I think I'll wait until another episode has passed, and maybe we can do 2 episodes at a time and kind of review them and just really just talk about them. But instead of doing like a big topic, I want to kind of break it up and talk about a few topics and talk about the theology at play. That's the point of these videos. It's not to attack an individual. It's not to look at like gossip that's happening inside, someone's church or institution or whatnot, but to look at the theology that is happening, that people are teaching, and ask, is it biblical? And what can we learn from it? And honestly, once again, to chat about it. So today we got a few topics. I got my tea, so I'm fully ready. The wife said, hey, I'll give you an hour on your own. I'll take the kid, the baby. Other ones are in bed now. But we got an hour to do this thing. So let's talk about this first topic. And this is where things went a little wonky the first time. Let's look here and get rid of that first off. And then let's go over here. And yes, all right, the microphone is coming through this time. This is where we had me muted the first time. So our first topic that I want to talk about tonight is Kenneth Copeland. Now, if you know who Kenneth Copeland is, you probably know what he's about. Like, he is the epitome of prosperity teacher. He's always focused on health and healing. I will say this, like you could see from my sweatshirt, you can see from some of the books that I have in the background, I come from a certain theological position. And maybe that's not your position, and that's fine. That's why I like this. I like this idea of being able to interact with each other. That's fun. So you don't have to be the exact same as me. But I will say, if you're coming from the perspective of healing and, like a word of faith kind of background, this guy is a little bit different. He is one of those guys that's been looked to, and it's pretty clear that he lives a lifestyle of luxury. Really expensive cars and private jets. And that's the thing the last couple of years that has gotten him in trouble. Maybe you've seen the clip, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, where was it Entertainment Tonight or some show like that? It like mostly focused Access Hollywood or something like that. Like they cornered him and started asking him about jets and whether he thought that was like a good investment and wasn't a waste. And there was something that came out of that where he was talking about why he thinks that, it's a great thing to have a jet and to be able to, spend millions of dollars on a jet and hundreds of thousands of dollars in maintaining that jet with the fuel and the hangar and everything. All right, we have some people hopping in here. CC students, the baby must be with the wife or asleep. LOL. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yep. All right. I don't know if you're a man. CC students, I'm going to assume, but yeah, that's exactly what happened. So that's kind of where we're going to go with these. We're going to be doing it in the evenings. But with Kenneth Copeland, he's talking about these jets and why it's a necessity for him to have one. And he basically called people who were sitting in the airplane with him demons, just straight up. It was a pretty awful thing to say, and you could tell he thought it was like a real, like, kind and good thing for him to say, and he didn't understand why people took him the wrong way. But yeah, it was something. Let's see, CC students, once again, Copeland looked like he was about to slap that woman in that video, right? Like, at first he was like being like, hey, let me be on camera. And then all of a sudden that changed pretty quick. All right. So he's a youth pastor. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for watching, CC students. Hopefully you can stick with me here and we can watch this clip together. I don't know if you've seen this. Let me know if you've seen it or not. But let's watch this thing and let's talk about the theology at play in this video. I will say Kenneth Copeland is a little bit different than the usual individuals that I talk about and what they're doing as far as theology goes. I will nitpick him quite a bit and tease some of his ideology and some of his demeanor because he's a charlatan. It's straight up, and it's a little bit different than, some respected pastor, someone who might come from a different perspective than me but has some teaching. It's a way different thing. So let's look here at what Kenneth Copeland has to say.
The time has come for ministries, particularly traveling ministries, to have some other method of travel other than the airlines. You get into this situation, we're not going to let you fly unless you're vaccinated. Well, to me, that's the mark of the beast.
Whoa, that escalated fast, right? Wow. Okay, so they're doing some kind of like call-in, trying to raise some funds for some ministry, and that's fine. That's good. Well, depending on what's going on. I don't know the full background of, this event. It's Victory Live. Not sure what that is, if that's a church or an institution, but they're trying to raise some funds, and he just comes out of nowhere and says, basically, we need some jets, y'all. Get the jets. We need the jets. I also find it a little interesting. Just listen to this one more time.
The time has come.
Okay. Hallelujah. He didn't even say anything. He just said the time has come. And this guy is already just yes, we need this. And it's very clear that he's just coming up with it off the top of his head because he's talking about, we need a new weapon. He misspoke and was weapon, we need a new way to fly. So, but what's he doing right now? Well, he's taking an ideology that's actually somewhat prevalent in North America right now, where we're talking about the jab. I know I'm not supposed to say the word, but the thing that you put in your arm and it's supposed to keep you from the bad bacteria out there. You know what I'm trying to say. He's trying to say that is the mark of the beast. And unfortunately, I'm not on Facebook, but I see plenty of stuff pop up on Twitter and, other avenues, and you hear it. There are some people who think that getting that little jab is a mark of the beast, or the mark of the beast. So what Kenneth Copeland is doing here is he's taking that I would say weak theology and applying it to this idea of him having jets. I don't want to get the mark of the beast, so I need to have my own avenue of transportation that I can get to other places in the world because I got to be there. I can't do Zoom. Can't do it. I got to be there. And I understand that there is value in being present, especially when you're running a bigger organization, because people want to come and physically see you. They want to be around you. You probably watching this video, whether you're here right now or you're watching the replay, you would rather go to an event if the speaker that you were interested in hearing was actually there. You'd be more interested in that versus, watching a video at, some location with a bunch of other people. That's just who we are. We want to be around people. So I get that. I understand that. But his kind of ministry, is it necessary for him to be traveling all over the place rather than doing Zoom? That's highly debatable. I would say no. But he's using this theology to twist and get his agenda, which is the same agenda that he's been talking about for years. And that's him being able to have an extravagant lifestyle and own a jet. I will say, if it was just about transportation, well, there are plenty of ways that you can get around that. Look at missionaries. Missionaries that have their licenses to fly, aviation missionaries, all those things. Look at what they're using to get around and do ministry. a little bit different than what this person is saying here. Let's see. CC students, here's my question. People are going to end up giving to this. Why? Behind this question is, why are people so easily deceived? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. That's a good question. Let's talk a little bit about the theology at play behind this idea of the mark of the beast. Because cards on the table, I come from an independent fundamental Baptist background. A weird Venn diagram of Reformed theology and IFB. My church was right in the middle. It was the only church in the middle between these two circles. So I understand a little bit about what he's saying, because where I grew up and what was being talked about a lot, and I'm sure, coming from a different perspective, where wherever you line up, whether you're Baptist, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, whatever, you've probably heard this before. Looking for the mark of the beast. And we look for credit cards for a long time. They thought that was the mark of the beast. And they were, so paranoid about, chips being on those cards. And, because that could be, put inside of you, as we'll look at in a sec. And they're looking for these physical, tangible things to say that this is the mark of the beast. And it comes from a very literal interpretation, of Revelation. And specifically, it comes from Revelation chapter 13. If you look right here, verse 16. And it makes everyone small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, the beast's name, or the number of its name. So this is what Kenneth Copeland is taking, this idea of the mark of the beast. Notice, if we're going to take things literally, right hand or forehead. Well, we don't have anything with the jab that is in your right hand or your forehead. So it doesn't make sense even from that. But let's look at something that a lot of people don't understand when they look at this idea and they interpret Revelation so literally. They don't look back. They only look at that specific section. They try to guess from that. It's why a lot of people think that, when Peter's talking over here, he's talking about an atomic bomb, and this is an Apache helicopter, and all these different things. And they just take a few ideas and they start applying it to what they see in the world. But we have to take things in context. What is the writer of Revelation doing? Well, he's building on an idea that he started, actually. Let's look here in chapter 7. Verse 3, don't harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we seal the servants of our God on their, what? Foreheads. So what the writer of Revelation is doing, he is not talking about a physical, a tangible, something you can feel and see kind of mark that's going to just be literally on their right hand or on their forehead, and that tells you who belongs to the beast, the system of the world, Satan, whatever you want to call that beast. That's not what he's doing. He's saying that there are going to be people who will belong to the system of the world and Satan. But there's another mark that we need to be concerned about. And we better have this mark. And it's the mark of those who believe in God, the servants of our God, on their foreheads, just like we saw in Revelation 13. So there's a mark of the beast, yes, but there's also a mark of God. Now, is God going to actually put some kind of a seal, some kind of a marking on top of every Christian's head? Well, we don't take that literally. I've never heard any interpreter of Revelation take it that way. So why do we go 7 chapters over and do it, only literally there? Well, we can't break up our hermeneutic. So the mark of the beast isn't some physical, tangible thing. It's not something that you need to be looking out for in the world and see, all right, what is Visa and MasterCard doing? They got chips. Are they going to be inserting it into your right hand or in your forehead? Is there barcodes? What is the mark of the beast? No. We need to be concerned about making sure that we belong to God, that we belong with him, and that we have his seal, and his seal is the Holy Spirit. We don't have to wonder about what that seal is. We see it in Ephesians. It's the Holy Spirit. So we need to be concerned about that rather than, some physical, tangible thing out there in the world. Let me know whether you're here right now or watching the replay, whether you agree or not. Do you believe? I'm saying this is my interpretation, but you might have a different interpretation, and that is okay, as long as you're not agreeing with Kenneth Copeland and saying like, hey, good point about, having that jet. Maybe I should be getting one too. I just want to see what people are going to say when there's jetpacks. Like, we're going to be making up all kinds of theological excuses to get one of those, right? What person doesn't want a jetpack? All right, let's hop over into our second topic today. All right, this one, a little bit different. We talk about Kenneth Copeland, and it's very easy to see him twisting scripture because he wants physical things, right? He's materialistic. He's focused on maintaining and keeping that jet. He wants it real bad. He wants to keep on doing ministry the same way as he's always done. Maybe a little bit of the dinosaur seeing the comet coming kind of a thing happening. But something else happened that is very different, coming from a very different individual. And that would be from Josh McDowell. Josh McDowell was speaking at the AACC conference. Don't ask me what that is. I have no idea. Never heard of it before. But I was on Twitter on Saturday. Was it Saturday or was it Friday? And I saw it. I saw what they were talking about here. They were talking about this. This is coming from Aaron New. I don't know who that is. Somebody said that he was a professor of theology at some institution. Not sure. But he tweeted this. I'm sitting here kind of stunned. I have a friend at the AACC World Conference, and in his tirade against CRT, Josh McDowell just said this. Black people don't have access to opportunities, they say, but it's because they weren't raised to value education and hard work. Yeah, this one got a lot of people upset. A lot of people were pretty ticked off about the comments that he made, and because of that led him to apologizing. Now, we don't know. I don't want to speculate intentions because that's not what this show is about. But we can see here he put out a statement. This was 19. I'm not sure when that was. A statement from Josh McDowell. You could read it. You can see the tweet online. It's still up. I think it's still up. But that second paragraph, I think, is important. He says, my statement as quoted does not reflect my own beliefs, and I want to begin by apologizing for my words and the implications they had. My statement started by saying, I do not believe blacks, African Americans, and many other minorities have equal opportunity. I do believe this. Racism has kept equality from being achieved within our nation. When I said that most minorities grow up in families where there is not a big emphasis on education and security, I made a generalized statement that does not reflect reality. I apologize and reiterate my Christian love for all races, nationalities, and people groups. My desire is that we as Christians would deal with both racism and inequality as the sins they are in order to restore the unity and equality that God desires for all. Wow. Now, there's a lot to be said about why he even needed to go down this path. I am not a channel that is going to focus on CRT. I don't see it as the tidal wave coming at all of the world, basically. But there's so many pastors, so many theologians that view it as like the biggest affront. I think even John MacArthur said that it is the biggest issue of his lifetime, which, I mean, is saying a lot. I don't agree. If you are one of those people that sees CRT in everything and wants to really focus on that, great. You could do that on your own channel. But this is coming from a lecture that he gave, basically saying that there are 5 great epidemics, is how he put it, epidemics in the world, and that CRT is the biggest one. And so he was really going into that. And as he went into that, that led him to talking about the differences between systemic racism and individual racism, and making some hard lines in between there, between these two. And that led him down to saying what I would say pretty foolish things. I'm not talking about him. I know a lot of people love Josh McDowell. If you love Josh McDowell, okay. I just didn't, I had to read the Evidence That Demands a Verdict. I think I had to read that in high school. I went to a Christian school. So I've read that, but other than that, apologists aren't my thing. I'm just going to say it. Like people really loved before things came out, Ravi Zacharias, and really loved Josh McDowell. It's great. But not me. I stick with pastors. Pastors, I think, are the most trustworthy theologians because they have to actually do stuff and have to get their hands dirty in ministry. And I think that does a lot. And I think they make the best professors. So those are usually the people that I read. But here, just taking his words, all right? We're just looking at his words and looking and asking about the theology behind some things. Black people don't have access to opportunities, they say. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a caveat here because while I did read Christianity Today, they did an article about this story. Of course, it's a big story. And they said that they looked into the audio, which is now gone. You can't go and listen to what happened unless you find someone on Twitter who recorded it or something. But they said that this is accurate. So I'm going to rely on that. So if you have issues and saying, well, like, we don't know if he actually said this, take that up with Christianity Today. I'm going to assume that they did their work in reporting it. But he says black people don't have access to opportunities, they say. So when you put a phrase in there like they say, one, like, did you ask every single one? Like, this isn't something that, like you can't just generalize and say this one individual speaks for everyone. It would be like me saying that I speak for all Baptists. I don't. I speak for me and maybe a few who would be like-minded to me. I don't speak for all Baptists. Black people don't have access to opportunities, they say, but it's because they weren't raised to value education and hard work. Before I get into that, let's see. I see a few people hopping in here. Let's get you up. And all right, OC students. As a black man, I somewhat agree with McDowell. Should he have said it publicly? I'm not sure, but as a black man, it is somewhat true when I was growing. And let's see. We all know and see media tells narrative that keeps people oppressed. Maybe. Glad I was able to jump in. Thanks for hopping in here, Luke. I'm late, but I made it. Thanks for doing a live stream. Hey, thanks for coming, hanging out, man. I appreciate it. Stick with me and let's have some discussions about these things. I appreciate your perspective, CC students. I don't know. I'll say that right off the bat. I don't know everything that goes into someone else's perspective, but I'm just going to take words that this individual said, and like you said, a public platform. It's one thing to have opinions and say them privately, or to even say, this is my opinion. Now, we can all assume that someone talking on a platform is going to say their opinion. But when you have an authoritative position like a public speaker who people are paying to come and speak, and people are looking up to and looking for direction from them, you are somewhat acting as an authority in that person's life. And I think it's important that when you have statements like this, that you're able to decipher a little bit about what they're saying, take the good and look at the bad honestly. So he says, but it's because they weren't raised to value education and hard work. Now, I will say, like CC Student said, he said that he somewhat agrees, that he thinks that some of this is true. That might be true. But when you're going on a public platform and saying, this is why, this is the main problem, this is the reason why we see all of this happening, and the main issue behind why these individuals aren't getting the opportunities, he's right. I would say that's pretty easy to tell. Just statistics alone, like it's pretty easy to tell that there aren't as many opportunities, and he agreed about that. He said that was right. But where you go wrong is saying that here's the reason. Here's the reason why, and it boils down to this. And you say that they weren't raised to value education and hard work. That's just not accurate. It's not accurate for people that I know. And I think when we make those generalized statements and we just kind of like sweep up everybody into this one category and say this, we're going to get it wrong. There's nuance in things. This is what makes theology hard, is that there's so much nuance to different things. I'm a Calvinist, and I'm sure at some point we'll talk about Calvinism. But I don't look at an Arminian and take them to their extremes. And I would hope that Calvinists, don't have the bad rep of every Calvinist, because that could get bad really fast. You can look at someone and you might look at me and say, okay, well, is he like the missionary board with David Brainerd, who said that when God wants to save the heathen, he'll do it without your help or me? No, I'm not like that. But you would say, well, those are Calvinists. Well, you can't just take one person and say that they fit into every category of the people that I know. Well, there are good Calvinists out there, and I would say that there are good people who would call themselves Arminians, and that's fine. We need to be able to flesh out some of these things and talk with each other rather than just make generalized statements and say everyone fits into this one category. We should be able to have these discussions so we can figure out where we stand on things and how far some of those things go, and maybe some of the background that we have with certain individuals, that we can see, well, maybe some of those things are true with that individual. Stereotypes are there for a reason. That's true. Like there are stereotypes that are accurate, but not all stereotypes are accurate. And some of them are just flat out wrong. So we need to figure out where we are with those things. And that's where he went wrong. And I think this is what we could learn from this, is that we got to be careful. He makes this one apology. That wasn't enough. A couple days later, he says this: at a recent conference, I made comments about race, the black family, and minorities that were wrong and hurt many people. It breaks my heart to know what deep pain I have caused. It has become clear to me, along with crew leadership, that I need to step back from my ministry and speaking engagements to enter a season of listening and addressing the growth areas that I have become aware of through this. During this time of meeting with others and learning, I hope to personally grow and better understand how I can help contribute to the reconciliation and unity that God desires for us all. During this session, Josh McDowell Ministry will continue in its mission with CEO Dwayne Zook leading all daily efforts. So, he apologized. Again, I'm not going to read into anyone's intentions with this. I'm just looking at his words and applying it to how we do theology. But I think, just my opinion, I think he's totally genuine in him being sorry and saying, I messed up. I shouldn't have said some of those things, and he is going to step back now. So what can we learn about how we do theology? Well, we can learn that we need to be really careful right now. We need to be really careful. Yes, cancel culture is the thing, and I'm sure that some of that played into this. But I think what also played into this was the fact that Josh McDowell wasn't happy with himself about how everything happened. And now we're in this world where you, if we go back over here, you speaking at a conference is heard by some guy on Twitter, and next thing you know, it's going crazy, right? We live in this world where we're all so connected that we have access to people's things. I'm here in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Canada. And where are you guys from, right? Like, we got a few people here in the live chat. We got a few people watching. Where are you from? Well, you're from somewhere probably far, far away. Not Star Wars, but, not that far, but pretty far. And we have access. You can watch this video right now. You can know what I think about a certain topic, and we can interact about that topic. I can know what you think about this topic. We can have this communication because I have a platform here. Josh McDowell has a way bigger platform, and his reach has been so much greater that someone heard him, took offense with what he said, and put it on Twitter. And now, like James says, not many should be teachers because they're going to get a stricter judgment, right? I'm going to get a stricter judgment from you watching this video. Maybe you've already been like, I don't agree with that. I don't think so. That's fine. But you're making a judgment about what I'm saying. That's what we do with people who we're listening to. We make judgments about them. Not in like a judgmental kind of way, but we're discerning whether this thing is true or not. And then, whether we're going to listen to this person or not. And Josh McDowell experienced that. And I think it's something that we need to learn from, is that we need to be careful about what we say online. Yes, with Christian love, with charity, and yes, also with cancel culture and things that are out there from the secular world, but also just in what we say and do as far as theology, there are some things that we just don't need to be talking about online. There just isn't. There are some things that are better said between me and you in a room. And it's not because we're ashamed of that thing, or it's maybe not because, like Josh McDowell here, I think he was wrong. But that's my perspective. But I think that he was wrong. So it might not be like you're wrong and you just don't want to give that out to the world. But there are some things that are better said between you and me in a closed, room scenario where we can hang out, maybe go to Starbucks. I love Starbucks. I'm drinking some of Starbucks tea here in Cap's Head. But we can go to Starbucks and we can talk about these things rather than do it online. And we need to be very careful about those things. Not because we're ashamed of the truth. Hopefully what we're saying is the truth. Not because we're ashamed of it, but because there's a better way to be persuasive and to have people understand that truth and understand it without running and jumping to conclusions, which, that's just the way the world is now. We jump and, we listen to someone talk, and then we always take it to like the next level. Well, if they said that, then they agree with this. And they didn't, make the connection between these two dots. We did that. So we need to be very careful about what we say in the world. So should Josh McDowell step back from ministry? Yeah, because he decided to. I don't think anyone really ran him out of town. I think he made that decision for himself. Let's look and see, what are you guys talking about? Luke, glad I was able to jump in. Oh, yep, I already saw that. Nice coffee mug. Yeah, man. Which one? I got like 8 coffee mugs. Like I got this. I got to figure. Okay, that one. I got that one, and I think there's another one on the bottom shelf there. So Yep. Big fan of Cap. Even in Canada, we love Captain America. He's the best. I can do this all day. All right, let's hop into another topic here. Oh boy, the SBC. Let's talk about the Southern Baptist Convention. Now, if you're not in the Southern Baptist Convention, we're in the same club. I'm not. Almost was. That's a story. That's a story right there. Whew. For a while last year, it looked like we were for sure going to be going someplace, and wow, a lot of stuff happened. Good. I'm glad it happened, because the Lord kept me from a pretty awful scenario. But I'm just saying, I've been interested, I'll put it that way, in the life of the Southern Baptist Church, the convention. It's not a denomination, they say. It's a convention. To which I say, you act like a denomination. It's basically a denomination. All right, let's talk about what's going on there, because they've been going through a lot, very publicly, and I've talked about it on my channel. Ed Litton and Sermongate and all of that. I already made a video about pastors and plagiarizing. I thought about making another video because he's said some very public statements. Some videos, maybe you saw the one with Adam Greenway down at Southwestern, and talking about how what he did wasn't plagiarism. I don't want to get into it too deep, because once like that story will get us very focused on an individual, and I don't want to do that. But they've been going through a lot, and this Sermongate thing has not been something that has been small. There are a lot of people who are very upset. Now I'm finding out that there are these two different things that are going on. There's Sermongate over here, and a lot of the more conservative people in the Southern Baptist Convention are very concerned and upset about this. And then there's this other thing that's going on, and this is what I want to talk about for a little bit. Because we have the Southern Baptist Convention Executive Committee. Now, if you don't know what that is basically the people who run the convention. The convention actually in itself does not exist except for the annual meetings. So when there's an annual meeting every 2 years, I think, or whatever, they exist when the members, the messengers, all show up, and they, go to Nashville. The next one is in Anaheim. They're going to show up, and they're going to vote on certain things, get business done until the executive committee, where they want funds to go to, and what kind of motions they want to have, and what business they want done. And then throughout the year, it is up to the executive committee to actually do that. To write the checks that go to North American Mission Board, International Mission Board, all those things, but also to do the things to make sure that the will of the messengers is done. Now, that is how they are Baptists. Baptists, one of the main things about being a Baptist is that we believe in the autonomy of the local church, which means that we believe that every local church runs its own government. Now, some of that government may be different. Whether you believe in a plurality of elders or whether you think the deacons should run the show, please tell me you don't think that the deacons should run the show. It doesn't work, okay? It never works. Bad things happen when deacons get to run the show, but also bad things happen when, one senior pastor gets a lot of power. I've talked about it before. I think actually in the last video, I talked about how I believe, from my perspective of this, that the local church should be elder-led, deacon-served, and congregationally ruled. Now, some churches do it differently. The Second London Baptist Confession over there on the shelf, it gives a lot of wiggle room on how you want to interpret these things. But the baseline of all of it is that the church should be run by that church and not have some hierarchy that they have to answer to. Now, that would contrast directly with Presbyterians who have a presbytery, and the church not necessarily the church, but the pastors, I guess, in the church have to answer to the presbytery and all of that kind of stuff. Or different organizations do it differently, different denominations, all of that. But the thing that makes Southern Baptist, because you could look at the convention and say, okay, well, if they go by that and they get all this work done from a convention, then isn't the convention in itself like the ruling body of the Southern Baptist Convention? Well, for the last, however many years it's been around, what is it? It's like 200 years. When was the Civil War? Yeah, a lot of bones in that closet. But yeah, so they've been around for a long time, and for the longest time they've been able to say that no, we're Baptist because it's the local church that has the power, and they can pull out of the convention whenever they want and all that kind of stuff. But something happened this past week and is still happening and might be finalized tomorrow or might go away tomorrow. That is actually attacking, I don't think people really understand, it's really attacking the whole idea of being Baptist. Not just about being Southern Baptist. So you might be like, all right, Dean, what are you talking about? What is going on? Well, comes from some of these kind of thoughts. I put this up here because I want you to see it. I'm not even going to read it. I'm just going to have you have it right there. So the Southern Baptist Executive Committee, they were tasked by the convention, this past convention, to waive privilege and have a third-party investigation basically check and see what the executive committee has been doing in regards to sexual abuse in the churches. Whether there's been, cover-ups, whether, some people were mistreated, all of these kinds of things. And they were supposed to do this big, deep dive, and it was supposed to, just reveal everything, just get it all done with. Let's see, let's make sure that victims are taken care of. That's what the messengers said. That's what they voted on overwhelmingly. Now come to find out that the executive committee is trying to get around that. Now, they have all kinds of reasons for that. But they've been actively trying to make sure that the executive committee doesn't have to waive privilege. Now, what we mean by that is that the third-party investigation, that they'll have access to everything, that they'll be able to, do the investigation all on their own, and whatever they find out is what they find out, and they can go public with whatever. And they, NDAs, all of that kind of stuff is out the window. Well, they don't want that. And I'm not going to speculate, although I really could. I'm not going to speculate on why they don't want to do that. They have said that it's financial, that they don't want to jeopardize the financial status of the convention. I don't fully understand that. Insurance, they say, a lot of lawyer talk. But my main point in bringing this up is to say that they have actively vetoed, basically, what the messengers said for them to do. Now, why is that a big deal? Because they just built a hierarchy. They just made it so that there is a small group, the executive committee, who actually is in charge of the Southern Baptist Convention, that they can, when they deem it appropriate, go against what the messengers as a whole have voted. And they've never done that before. Or I think that there was something in 2011. I forget. Someone tweeted about that a while ago, that this wasn't the first time. But in general, this is unprecedented, that they would go against what the messengers overwhelmingly told them to do. So what they're basically doing is they're building, sounds so weird, but a presbytery within the Southern Baptist Convention that basically is in charge of the churches and saying, no, we're going to go against what you have already said, and according to what their bylaws say and all of that kind of stuff. So why is this such a big deal? Because a lot of people are upset, and rightfully so, because when you act in this way, you're basically taking the foundation of what it means to be a Baptist away. And because of that, then this executive committee can do all kinds of things, and they can they can make changes without the churches knowing. All kinds of chaos can erupt from this one decision. Now, I think that there's a lot of more morally at stake, and I'll let you read between the lines about what I'm talking about. But I will say, theologically, the SBC is kind of in chaos right now, whether they're going to respect the autonomy of the local church, whether they're going to respect even their own bylaws, whether they're going to have the executive committee act in this way where they can just kind of dictate what they want to do. It's interesting. And that kind of leads me to the fourth topic here, because a lot of people are upset about that. I was listening to, well, I'm going to get his name wrong. I think his name is like Adam Wainwright, or it might be just Adam Wright. But he is on the executive committee, and he's been going around, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and he's going around to the podcasts and talking about all of this and what he experienced behind closed doors and whether they were going to waive privilege or not. And, it's been interesting, but he was saying that there are already churches that have left the Southern Baptist Convention over this. And that mixed with the people on the other side, I shouldn't say on the other side, but maybe coming from a little bit different of a perspective on this issue, but they're upset about Ed Litton and Sermongate, and a lot of people not taking a stand on it, and so they're upset, and so there's churches leaving there's churches leaving over here, and it leads me to this question. Pause for dramatic effect. Leads me to this question of, are denominations dying? Because denominations, I mean, you can't really argue it. The numbers are going down. The only numbers that are going up are non-denominational. The nons, people talk about that evangelistically, and, non-Christian, that those numbers are going up. As we see culture kind of embracing this idea of, atheism mixed with, just a general sense of spirituality and not, strict religion. So that's happening for sure. But as far as churches go, denominations have been shrinking for a couple of years, basically a decade. Denominations have been shrinking, and non-denominational churches have been on the rise. Not necessarily that they're planting more churches, but I think a lot of it is churches that are taking the name out of their church, that they're leaving the denominations that they came out of. And it leads me to ask this, are denominations dying? So it's, yes, there's corruption in some of these places. There's mistrust of leadership. We see that as a society, that we just don't trust what leadership says anymore. We don't trust the media. We don't trust blogs. We don't trust a lot, guys. But most denominations, yes, are in decline, and then mixed with the polarized culture where we have to be identical. That's something. Man, I wonder what we could do as Christians if we just went against culture in just this aspect, where in culture, you got to agree with me 100%. And if you don't agree with me 100%, we're done. That idea is just so contrary to what we see in the New Testament with the local church, that the local church, yes, there are differences. And we're supposed to respect each other's differences to a certain degree. I'm not talking about orthodoxy. I'm talking about slight differences that we have. Well, we're supposed to go to Romans, live at peace with one another. We're supposed to do everything we can to live at peace with each other, to get over these little differences, to see past those differences and see the main reason that we're together, the mission of the church. But if we could get over that, I think that we would do a lot of good in this world for the cause of Christ. If we could just get away from that cultural idea and let that, just be something that we just repel like crazy in the church. So it could be very easy for someone to look at those kinds of things and say, yeah, denominations are dead. And, I don't really care. We don't need them. We don't need denominations. I can tell you, as someone who is in Canada, where I'm just going to say it, and maybe people up here will get a little upset. I wish that we had stronger denominations, denominations that we could be happy with, and reformed denominations. Man, it would be nice. Because there's power. There's power in a denomination. Yes, there's corruption. There's the opportunity for corruption to take place. There's, all kinds of issues that you might have, especially, when you're talking about these big ones, like the Southern Baptist Convention, 47,000 churches or something crazy like that. Like, that's a lot, man. And you have, when you have that big of an umbrella, you're going to have people all over the theological spectrum. They might be able to say, oh yeah, I agree with this simple, the faith and message. I agree with this simple doctrinal statement. But it's something else to say, like, I affirm this, and then I really believe it. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I go down further with that. But what I'm trying to say is that you're going to have a big spectrum when you have a bigger umbrella of a denomination. And because of that, you're going to have a lot of infighting. And I think that's actually what's going on with the Southern Baptist Convention. It's a really big umbrella. And so you're going to have a lot of people coming from a lot of different perspectives, and they're not going to see eye to eye on a lot. So when I'm looking at denominations, I see there's a lot of good that can happen as far as mission goes. You can get a lot done with people working together. You could get a lot done with people pouring, from, I'm up here in Canada, so from all the way from BC to New Brunswick, having like-minded churches feeding into what's happening here in Saskatchewan, that's a beautiful thing. That's an amazing thing. There's power in numbers. There's power in just the idea of being together with other like-minded believers. So I don't think that denominations are dead. I think that they are in decline, and I think some of these bigger ones where it's a really big umbrella, that umbrella is going to get smaller. We're going to have to figure out, where exactly we stand on some of the things that, in the past we've been okay with saying like, oh, I'm okay with being a little bit different on this perspective. I could get along with you even though you disagree, and we could still partner together for the cause of Christ. As far as denominations go, I think that we're going to see a lot more strict doctrinal statements and saying that we agree on a lot more points than we've said before when it comes to denominations. But I think what we're also going to see is partnerships, that we're going to see people partner with smaller groups who are like-minded, who are invested in the same things, not just like the same ideas, but the same things, like a camp. Who's going to run that camp? Well, who's going to pay for this camp? You might have, 20 churches get together and say, we really like this idea of a camp. We're going to support this. We're going to pay for a salary for, the director, all those kinds of things. And we're going to see smaller partnerships. And then on a broader level, I think things like, and maybe some people who watch this on the replay, I know this, the Gospel Coalition is not, some people are very upset about the Gospel Coalition, but I think it's going to be organizations like that we're going to be involved with in the future, as far as like broader reach than just our specialized local associations, partnerships, whatever word you want to call them. I think that's where we're going to have to go if we're going to adopt this culture. And I don't mean like adopt it, I mean have it impact us the way that it has been. It would be great if that idea of cancel culture within the local church just went away. and we can work through things and talk about things and be okay with some slight differences between our theological perspectives when it's not about orthodoxy, when it's about, some of these smaller ways of how we run the local church. But unfortunately, culture is kind of swept in, and I think a lot of people are giving way too much leeway into that culture. And I think that we're going to see institutions act a little bit different than we've seen in the past. And some of these bigger umbrella institutions become very much more narrowly focused. And we're going to see some new new denominations, conventions, associations, whatever word you want to use to describe partnership. We're going to see some new ones that are very focused theologically. We're going to see, I'll just take my example once again. Very reformed organization who's also Baptist, who is also, whether they agree with CRT or not, like those kinds of things. We're going to see those things happen. And I think that there's going to be a lot of hurt. There just is, and that's sad, and it's not good. But it's probably the way things are going to go. So are denominations dead? Absolutely not. There's so much value in denominations, accountability, all these kinds of wonderful things, support, even as far as just giving you a leg up. There's something to it. If you go down to the South and you say, I'm a Southern Baptist, that kind of tells you a little bit about people. Or if you're up here and you say you're CBWC, some people will react and say like, oh, that's a good thing. Or some people might say that's a bad thing. And, there's certain theological baggage. I don't mean that in a bad way, but just some stuff that we bring with us into those relationships that we have. So are denominations dead? No, they're going to be there. I just think that they're going to be more narrowly focused, and we might have to get very specialized in the ministries that we do and the associations that we have. I think we're going to see some interesting things happening in the next 10, 15 years. Maybe some good, maybe some bad. But that's where I'm at with that. All right, let's see. I think that's about it. How long have we been going? We've been going for an hour. That's good. All right, guys. Well, if you stuck with me, thank you. I want to thank Luke and CC students for hopping in here and encouraging me through just being present. If you're watching on the replay, give some comments, guys. Maybe you watched this and you haven't commented, but you've been listening to it. Maybe you had it on in the background. I know it's a long show. I'm going to clip this out. Something I want to talk about after. But maybe you've been listening to it. Well, like this video. Do it. And leave a comment and let me know what you thought about some of the things. I'm sure you didn't agree with everything. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking to have some discussions with you. If you want to do it in the comments, respectfully. Big difference. Some channels, you see some of the comments that go in there, and I've had some comments on my channel where just not a lot of grace and very, like, you just know where someone's going. I want to have a discussion. We can have a discussion here in the comments, but not necessarily giving you a platform just to say whatever you want. Just going to say that. But also, the way that we're doing the show, like I said at the beginning, I'm wanting to take a few of these comments or a few of these topics and cut them and put them up throughout the week. So if you see this logo right here, TheoLIVE, in the thumbnail for a video, most likely, if it's not an hour long, it's not going to be a live video. It's going to be one of these clips. So if you already watched this, you don't have to watch the other one. If you want to, sure, go ahead. Maybe you got something out of it and you're just, wanting to watch it again. That's fine with me. But if you see like a 15 to 20 minute video about a subject that you're like, didn't Dean already talk about that? Yeah, I did. I'm just putting another one out there because most likely YouTube isn't going to push out an hour and 5-minute video for everyone to see. So maybe they'll be more likely to push out these little clips And they're not going to be that little. I talk for a long time. I'm a Baptist. All right. So that's the show for today. I'm going to try to do a marking up the word video this week. I wasn't able to last week. Had some things pop up. But I'll have videos throughout the week. I'll see you in one of those. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.